The morning sun barely brushed the edges of the hall as Kael paced quietly, watching the last of the pack members leave the games. Their laughter and farewells felt distant, almost hollow, swallowed by the gnawing unease in his chest. Selene was gone. He didn't know where she had vanished to, only that the faint memory of the kitchen lingered, the trembling figure, the hidden bruises. His wolf stirred, urging him to hunt, to find her, but he held it down, controlling his vibration, careful not to alert the pack. Any hint of weakness, any sign of distress, and they would sense it. He needed composure, he needed control. And yet, as the pack departed, time felt like a narrowing trap, the games ending before he could ensure she was truly safe. Rylan stands at the edge of a hallway, partially hidden, watching interactions of the pack members. His posture is alert, but controlled, eyes sharp and calculating. He is focused on finding signs of trouble, keeping his presence subtle so as not to disturb Kael or alert the pack. The light is soft and dim, highlighting his careful movements and cautious observation. In trap, the games ending before he could ensure she was truly safe. Meanwhile, Lyra had not wasted the hours. She slipped into Kael's private chambers with predatory ease, draping herself across his bed. A silk robe clung to her, just enough to tease, her auburn hair tumbling perfectly over her shoulders. "I was waiting for you," she murmured, smirk curling her lips. Kael's jaw tightened, irritation flickering across his eyes. He could not afford weakness, he would not show it. The pack expected control, dominance, authority. He played along, slipping beside her, keeping the charade intact. Yet his mind never strayed far from the memory of the girl he could not reach, the one who had disappeared into the shadows, hidden from view. Empty room after Lyra has gone to bed with him, his posture tense and controlled. He closes his eyes briefly, thinking about Selene's disappearance and the bruises he saw at the kitchen. His wolf growls beneath the surface, restrained, as worry etches his features. The lighting is low, shadows long, reflecting the looming tension of the game's ending and the pack leaving. Corvin Dusk paced the length of his quarters, fists clenched and jaw tight, green eyes flashing with restrained fury. The news that Lyra, his true mate, had slept with Kael burned in his mind. He slammed a hand on the polished table, sending papers sliding, then ran a hand through his dark hair, exhaling a low growl that betrayed his inner wolf. Every instinct screamed to confront her, yet he knew he could not act without causing chaos. Frustration clawed at him, so he diverted his attention to the one person he could manipulate without breaking the rules, Lyra's best friend. She leaned against the doorway, her posture casual but eyes sharp, reading his mood as easily as he read hers. Corvin's gaze flicked to her, a calculated smirk forming, as he moved closer. He spoke smoothly, words layered with charm and subtle tension, each gesture deliberate, a hand brushing past hers, a lean into her space, a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. He allowed himself small indulgences, teasing and testing her boundaries, but his mind never left Lyra. He knew every choice, every glance, was a gamble, a distraction to keep the gnawing frustration at bay. Shadows from the dimly lit room stretched across his features, highlighting the rigid set of his shoulders and the tension in his hands. Every step, every word, reflected both his rage and his cunning, a wolf contained, circling prey it could not. Darius paced the length of his private study, the polished floors echoing under his heavy steps. His sharp blue eyes scanned the scattered papers across the desk, reports from his pack, updates on Kael, and now the troubling news. Rylan was quietly investigating the attack on Selene. A slow, calculating smile curved his lips. Perfect. The boy was loyal, precise, but naive. He would dig, question, poke at secrets that were not meant to be uncovered. But he could be controlled, guided, used to Darius's advantage. He stopped at the window, staring out at the city lights below, fingers steepled, mind weaving his next moves. Selene. That girl was more trouble than he had anticipated. Mysterious, resilient, and entirely too valuable. He had promised the witch her safety, but that promise did not interfere with his plans. He turned sharply, moving back to the desk. She must be removed, he muttered, kept away from Kael. Far enough to be out of sight, yet close enough to watch. Control. His thoughts raced. A distant relative, a secluded estate, maybe even another town entirely. Any solution that kept her alive, yet powerless, would suffice. Then there was Lyra. His daughter had played her part beautifully, ensnaring Kael's attention, and now Darius's hand hovered over the plan's next phase. If Selene were gone, Kael would be vulnerable, distracted, and Lyra would shine as the perfect mate. Everything was aligning. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly, mind alive with schemes. Every move calculated, every player in position. Soon the pieces would fall exactly where he wanted, and no one, neither Kael, Rylan, nor the girl herself, would see it coming. The chamber is warm with the glow of lanterns, shadows dancing across the velvet drapes. Lyra reclines on the couch, her long red hair catching the firelight like a living flame. She smiles, sharp and predatory, clearly intoxicated by her own triumph. Maris sits opposite her, wine in hand, curls falling over her shoulder, her expression a mix of admiration, caution, and quiet calculation. Lyra, triumphant, whispering. Kael finally gave in. You should have seen the way he looked at me, Maris, torn, hungry, and yet restrained. Gods, the restraint only made it sweeter. She tilts her head, eyes glittering with mischief and obsession, plotting her next move. Maris, thoughtful, swirling her wine, voice low, almost to herself. You revel in his weakness, Lyra, but be careful. Kael is not easily possessed, and while you play, don't forget Selene lurks in the shadows, loyal and unnoticed. For now. Her mind flickers with doubt, curiosity, and envy. She admires Lyra's audacity, but wonders if the game will spiral beyond control. She sees the fire in Lyra's eyes, not just passion, but a hunger for power and attention, and wonders if Kael will eventually slip from their grasp. Lyra, laughing softly, dismissing the warning. Selene? She is nothing to me. Blind devotion is weak. Kael wants the storm. He needs it, and I will give it to him, again and again. Next time, I will not let him resist. Maris watches, feeling the tension between amusement and concern. She sees the thrill in Lyra, but also recognizes the danger in such boldness. And yet, she is drawn into the plan, a silent conspirator, enjoying the sway of influence and the intoxicating power of secrets. The firelight flickers across the walls, and in the quiet of the chamber, both women plot, one consumed with conquest, the other a silent observer, her own thoughts a mixture of admiration, doubt, and careful calculation. Rylan moved like a shadow through the sleek modern estate, every step measured, eyes flicking to the staff and pack members around him. The whispers of missing items, hurried errands, and hushed gossip fell into his mind like puzzle pieces, and he began to fit them together with precise care. Selene. The name itself lingered, though he had never spoken it aloud. She was just a girl, timid, small, yet something about her drew his attention. Perhaps it was the way she moved cautiously, keeping herself contained, or the subtle tension in her shoulders that suggested she bore more than she let on. He had observed her before, fleeting glimpses down hallways or across rooms, but tonight the details settled in his mind. Her hands, the tilt of her head, the way her golden yellow eyes darted nervously. He catalogued it all, as if memorizing her in secret. He reminded himself sharply to focus. Kael's pack, Kael himself, the investigation, those were the priorities. Loyalty wasn't just a duty, it was a tether keeping him anchored. Desire, curiosity, fascination, luxuries he could not afford. And yet, they clung to him, persistent as shadows in the corners of the estate. He paused outside the kitchen, catching a fleeting glimpse of her moving between counters. The tray she carried held steady, despite the tremble in her hands. His wolf growled low, restrained, sensing her vulnerability, sensing her pain. But he said nothing. He was bound by duty, by honor, and by the unspoken hierarchy of the pack. Questions ran through his mind as he continued his quiet investigation. Who had hurt her? Why had she disappeared when Kael was looking? Every staff member he questioned offered scraps of information, conflicting statements, nervous smiles, averted eyes, and Rylan pieced them together like a living puzzle. Each clue deepened his intrigue, made him study her even more closely, even as he scolded himself for it. From a distance, he sensed Kael's tension, subtle vibrations of worry radiating through the halls. He had to remain calm, unobtrusive, but even that was a challenge when the girl who had captured his thoughts also occupied his concern. For now, he pushed down what he felt, focused on the mission, and let the shadows carry him forward, unseen, listening, observing, keeping the balance between duty and fascination intact. Lyra sits on the edge of her chaise, auburn hair falling in perfect waves over her shoulders, her green eyes alight with both triumph and calculation. The memory of Kael, the feel of his hands, the tension between them, the power of the moment, replays vividly in her mind. She had given herself to him, her first, a calculated move to capture the alpha's attention and favor. Her lips curl into a small, proud smile, but beneath it lingers a flicker of doubt. Did I do the right thing, she thinks, biting her lower lip. Every careful plan had been aimed at one goal: winning Kael, the alpha who could lift her out from under her father's manipulations. She could have accepted Corvin, her true mate, who had adored her and offered loyalty and comfort, but she wanted more. A lowly general would never provide the power, influence, or freedom she craved. Kael was her ticket to dominance, prestige, and control over her own life. She rises, pacing slowly across the polished floor, hands trailing along sleek surfaces, as if grounding herself. He doesn't love me. Not yet, but he could be mine. The thought pulses with both desire and strategy. The memory of Corvin's hurt eyes is there, lingering in the back of her mind, but she swallows the guilt. Ambition demands sacrifice. A shadow of worry crosses her features. She had been so focused on her plan, so certain of her aim, that she had overlooked some details. Did I take precautions? She muses quietly, pressing her fingers to her temple. For now, she will postpone that worry. Her immediate concern is Kael, securing him as hers, tightening the invisible leash of desire and loyalty. Her green eyes flare with determination. She will win him at all costs. No one, neither her father, Corvin, nor any rival, will stand in her way. Lyra sinks back onto the chaise, letting herself savor the thrill of her bold act, her mind already racing ahead to the next move, to the next seduction, to the next subtle act of control that will ensure Kael is hers. Selene sank against the cold basement wall, her back pressed to the rough brick, knees drawn up to her chest. The dim light made the shadows deepen, curling in corners, and hiding her from any prying eyes. Her hands trembled as she hugged herself, the bruises on her arms and shoulders aching with every shift of her body. She had learned quickly to stay small, invisible, and silent. Ever since the kitchen incident, she hadn't dared step into the halls. Kael's presence lingered in her thoughts like a storm, unpredictable, dangerous, and impossible to read. Above her, the mansion hummed with life, though now it was quiet compared to the chaos of the Pack's games. Rylan moved silently, asking questions to the servants, to anyone who might have seen her, piecing together the fragments of the night before. Selene didn't know he was searching, but her wolf could sense him, calm and steady, a quiet energy that made her insides relax just slightly. He wasn't approaching, didn't speak, didn't intrude, and somehow that made him the only person she felt she could trust. Darius and Lyra's warnings echoed through her mind. "Keep your mouth shut," they had hissed, their voices sharp as knives, the promise of sending her away hanging like a guillotine. Selene had no illusions. They meant it. She had seen Lyra's cruelty firsthand, the way she could manipulate and strike without warning. And Darius, she had no idea what his plans might be, only that they didn't include her safety. Her golden eyes, normally alert and piercing, darted toward the basement door. She imagined Kael walking the halls above, every step deliberate, his alpha energy filling the house even if he didn't know she was there. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, tense and restless, sensing the danger, the power, the unspoken questions swirling in the air around him. Yet, she forced herself still. She would not reveal herself, not yet, not to anyone. Her thoughts drifted to Rylan again, the only person whose presence made her wolf relax, even from a distance. He had watched over her long before Kael had taken notice, long before she had been drawn into the Pack's games, long before anyone knew what she was capable of. Even without approaching, even without a word, he carried a silent promise of protection, and that was enough to give her a flicker of hope. Time crawled. Every distant footstep, every muffled laugh from the upper floors, made her flinch. The basement walls seemed to shrink around her, suffocating, but she stayed pressed to them, letting her hair fall over her face to hide the bruises that marked her skin. Every nerve in her body was alert, every sound amplified, and yet, even as fear wrapped tight around her, she could feel the wolf beneath, quiet but aware, ready to rise if needed, restrained by the promise she had made to her mother. The night dragged on, heavy and oppressive. Selene's mind raced with questions she didn't dare voice aloud. Who could she trust? What did Kael want from her? Would anyone ever understand the strange mix of human and wolf that pulsed inside her? And above it all, the silent weight of Rylan's observation lingered, unseen but grounding, reminding her that even in the darkness, someone was watching, someone cared. Selene drew in a shaky breath and pressed her forehead to her knees, eyes closed, trying to will her heartbeat to slow. Every instinct told her she was prey, but she forced herself to remember. She was more than that. Half human, half witch, wolf beneath her skin. And though the world thought her powerless, she carried strength no one could see. And for tonight, hidden in the basement, she would survive. She would wait. And when the time came, she would act. Rylan's memory of that first pack games was tangled with vibrant laughter, the thud of running feet, and the smoke from roasting meat drifting across the clearing. He'd been sent by Kael to oversee preparations, making lists in the shade, while the others sparred and boasted. He always noticed the invisible ones, those living on the edges. That's when he saw her, Selene, moving like a shadow between tents, arms full of linens or hunched over a wash tub. The others jeered and threw scraps for her to fetch. Darius's pack treated her as little more than a ghost, a scullery maid without a voice. If she looked up at all, it was only to check who was watching before shrinking away again. Rylan watched from a distance, missing none of the way her face closed off when she was seen. When their eyes did meet just once, it felt electric, a flash of pain and defiance, before she ducked back into the kitchens and vanished behind swinging doors. He remembered overhearing the others mutter, "Just the witch's brat. Don't speak to her." He found himself seeking her out, tracking her silent movements. The loneliness in her posture hurt to watch. He understood it too well. The way a person built walls to survive. Every harsh word thrown her way fueled something fierce inside him. Even then, Rylan wanted to help, to promise her protection, but he knew it would only bring her trouble. As dusk fell and the campfire games began, Rylan lingered near the back kitchens under a lantern's glow, pretending to check supplies. Selene passed by, arms laden with plates. For a second, she paused right beside him, her face a mask of indifference, but her eyes, quick and haunted, met his. He wished he could say something, anything, but found himself mute. Whether it was fate, pity, or the seesaw ache of forbidden kinship, from that night on, Selene was burned into his heart. He never forgot the way she became part of the background, silent, unnoticed, but stronger than anyone realized. And he told himself that if ever the chance came, he would reach out to her, not as a savior, but as someone who truly saw her. Rylan leans against a shadowed hallway pillar, arms crossed, eyes following Selene as she moves silently, tending to her chores. His jaw tightens. Every small bruise on her arms twists something inside him. He's known her for months, seen her resilience, but he's never seen her this vulnerable. He doesn't move closer. He can't, but he wants to. His wolf growls softly, demanding protection, and his heart betrays him. Long before Kael even noticed her, Rylan's feelings had been quietly growing. Now, tasked with investigating who harmed her, his duty is clear, but the pull of his desire makes every glance impossible to ignore. "Why does it have to be this way?" he murmurs under his breath. He clenches his fists, fighting the urge to step forward, to reach her, to take her somewhere safe. He wonders why she seems so drawn to danger, why she's so fearless, even when battered. And yet, he knows he cannot cross the line, not until Kael's wishes are fully honored. Kael sits in the shadows of his chamber, the weight of his choices pressing heavily on his chest. He cannot shake the guilt of what he has done with Lyra, a betrayal that burns his soul, though he tells himself it was necessary for the safety of his pack. Still, every time he closes his eyes, it is Selene's face he sees, his mate, his true bond. Yet he cannot go to her, cannot risk exposing her to the dangers that circle them both. So he makes the hardest choice. He sends Rylan to guard her in his stead. Kael watches from afar, torn between duty and desire, knowing he has placed the most precious part of his soul into another man's care. Just as he steels himself against his own torment, a sound echoes down the corridor. A low growl, unfamiliar and dangerous. The air thickens with a new threat, and Kael realizes too late that danger has come much closer than he ever intended. The sound dies away, but the silence that follows is heavier than before. Selene's breath catches, shallow and quick, as if even the air itself has thickened around her. A cold draft snakes along the stone floor, curling around her ankles. The shadows seem to lean closer, shifting when she blinks, as though the basement itself is holding its breath. Her heartbeat is loud, steady, almost drumming in her ears. She wonders if whatever made that sound can hear it too. Every creak of the house above, every drop of water in the pipes, feels amplified, until the line between real and imagined blurs.